in this first session, we're going to be talking specifically about steps that you can take to double your profitability and overcome low margins despite reimbursements and everything else, all the other craziness that's going on economically in the environment right now. There we go. So just as Andrea said a few minutes ago, couple just reminders, a little bit of housekeeping of how you can get the most out of today and out of the sessions. Number one is block off your time. Hopefully you've already done that and you want to avoid interruptions as much as possible. So I did turn my phone off, just double check that. But you want to grab, something to write with, or however you typically take notes, whether it's on your laptop or whatever it is that you typically do, grab something to write with and write on. And also, as Andrea alluded to, at the end of this session, we'll be making an exclusive offer specifically for you and for private practice owners. And then the other thing to do is stand up every once in a while, give yourself a stretch. You're likely a physical therapist, you know what to do. Stay hydrated so that you have as much mental capacity as possible, because we have a lot of work to do here today. So we have our team has done an amazing job lining up an awesome panel for you for the next several hours or so. So both Carl and I are here right now. For those of you who don't know, my name is Chad Madden. I'm a physical therapist, private practice owner for 20 years, and also the co-founder here at Breakthrough. Carl is here. Carl is online marketer, has a huge background in software, and is also co-founder and CEO here at Breakthrough. Tyson will be on with us here later this afternoon. He's specifically going to talk about marketing. Tyson has an amazing background in everything from Google, now in TikTok, and also Facebook ads. You're going to love this session with him. We have some practice owners on, Tony Sear and Deepak. Very unique practices, doing things that are absolutely amazing for practice owners right now. You're going to love their sessions. Mary DeLong, everybody knows Mary, the queen of compliance. She and Bob Kowalik are going to be helping you think through billing and really, how to not leave any money on the table, which we're still coming across quite a few practice owners who are providing a service and not really getting paid for what they're doing in a legal, ethical, compliant way. Jason Waz will be on, and Maggie will be joining us as well on a panel that we have coming up here in a little bit. Plus, we'll have some other people joining us from Anovis and other practice owners, et cetera. We have an amazing lineup for you today. It's going to be action-packed, and we have a lot of information for you to help navigate right now. So our agenda, we have our first session here where we're going to talk about health trends. We pulled some new data here for you, and really we're going to help you focus on increasing your profitability. We're then going to have a session specifically on how one owner increased his reimbursement by up to 15% for certain payers. That's with Tony Sear. We're also going to talk about how you can jump we have a specific session with Deepak on how to go from working in your business. He was treating 80 plus hours a week to working on your business. This says 6 hours. I think Deepak's actually down to 0, but we'll get that straight from him during that session. Tyson's going to do the session on the 3 most impactful marketing activities for PT private practice owners today. Then Mary and Bob are going to be doing the secrets from the billing experts, really how to maximize your revenue and get paid for the work that you're doing in a timely manner. Then we're going to we're going to have a cash pay panel as well. A great lineup there. You're going to love that. And we're specifically going to talk about one of the hottest topics in the market right now, which is selling cash pay services, adding additional cash pay services. I know some of us get nervous when we think about doing that if we're used to participating only with insurance companies. But that is going to be great. Really looking forward to that. And then we have a final session where I'm going to be sharing a tool and walking you through specifically how you can plan financially for profitability, how you can think through regardless of your situation. We're already up to 114 owners on here. How you can think through your specific, unique individual situation and plan for profitability. So there should be a poll coming up on your screen, or I think we're going to do this one in the chat, I'm thinking. This is probably in the chat. Oh, there is a poll.
Oh,
Great. So what's the number one challenge that you're facing today in your private practice? So there's some options there, and we'll share the results here with you in a second. Number one is, finances, shrinking margins, profitability. You're concerned about that. Two is personnel, hiring and retaining employees, PTs leaving your practice because they're going to work in a hospital system or acute care or some other system. Marketing, getting a consistent flow of new patients through the door, filling up your schedule. Time, you're working too many hours. You don't have any time freedom to either take care of yourself or take care of your family, your loved ones, or if there's something else, you can write it in the chat.
I'll give people just another couple of seconds to respond, and then I'll share the results here. Still getting people responding. All right, I'm going to end the poll.
Okay.
Everyone said they're all relevant. Not super surprised.
Great. So results from the poll. By the way, somebody said that my voice is echoing.
It's not on
You're
my
good,
end, so I think you're all right.
Cool.
Good.
Must be something with their setup.
Yeah, Patricia, you might be logged in twice or something simple like that. So number one challenge facing today, 53% of responders said finances, shrinking margins, profitability. Well, you're in the right place. That's primarily what we're going to be talking about here the next few hours. Personnel, how to hire and retain employees was second with 20%, marketing 16%, time 11%. And then we also had some answers in the chat there, which were pretty much all the above. Awesome. And one more question for you. What are you most interested in learning today? Your options there: improving margins and gaining more financial security, negotiating insurance contracts or renegotiating, right? How to avoid underbilling, adding a cash pay service, filling your schedules, meaning you have therapists on board that have blank spots in their schedule, or filling your space. That would be, we have 3,000 square feet and we only have one therapist in the space, and you want to bring more therapists in and, get to the point where you have 5 or 6 clinicians operating in that space, or gaining more time freedom. Again, we'll give that another minute or so for you to click on your answer before we read the results. Todd has a good one. I'm not networked with insurance. Should I be? Just Medicare? We have a session for you specifically. Results of the second poll. So 2/3 of you said improving margins and gaining more financial security. Next up was negotiating insurance contracts, with 38% of you responding yes there. How to avoid underbilling, 35%. Adding cash pay services, a quarter of you. Filling schedules and space, also 23%. Gaining more time freedom, 22%. Jessica says mostly all of the above. Great. Cool. So I think, again, with the agenda that we have prepared for you today, the sessions here, the information that you're going to be getting, this will be helpful for all of the above. So how to increase profits and grow without cutting cost. Many of the conversations we're having with owners, they're focused on cutting as the way out and preserving profit margin. And in this session, my goal for you is just to show you that there is another way. And so if we look at what's happening in the physical therapy market today, this first graph, this is national healthcare expenditure in the US, and it's from 1970, before I was born, to through 2021, the last full year that we have information. And I'm just going to go a few years back. So in 2016, when the first time that we did a state of PT and we started talking about national healthcare expenditure and how anemic physical therapy was related to the whole pie, 2016, $3.3 trillion were spent in healthcare. 2021, the last full year that we have numbers, it's now 4.3 trillion. So we increased $1 trillion. Quick math for me is that's about 35% growth in the last 5 years. Just by a show of hands or commenting in the chat section, how many of you have grown your practice by 35% in the last 5 years? Jill says no. Tina says yes. A simple no or yes will be great. Lots of yeses. Sandra says fat chance. Appreciate the humor. Got some no's, some 25%. Pretty good mix of no's and yeses. All right. So the idea is that the market, right, the amount of money that we're spending in the US has grown to 4.3 trillion. If you heard me at an association event in the fall, if you do the math behind that, there were 331.9 million people. It comes out to $12,956 per person per year that we're spending in this country on healthcare. It is a giant number. How much of that do you think went to, I know the PT and OT combined, it's 34 billion, right? So pretty anemic. We're a very small sliver of this entire healthcare system, yet dollar for dollar, I believe and know that we provide the best outcomes per dollar, right? So that has happened along the lines, and we'll show you some specific graphs here. We've had decreased reimbursements. So the market has grown tremendously, but we're being reimbursed less money for the same amount of work today than we were back in 2016. There's increased employment expenses and other costs that we'll take a look at here in a second. And in the end, what does that mean? Our profits are shrinking. A few years ago, we were at 2018, 14.6% profit margin as an industry. Today, that's no longer the case. Bob Kowalik was just on a podcast here recording that we did this week. And he was talking about, we've seen record numbers of practices that are less than 10% in terms of their profit margin. That is a huge red flag for all of us and should be a wake-up call that we have to dramatically change our structure or we're going to be in trouble. We're skating on thin ice. The other thing that's happening, a lot of owners are talking about this, is they're losing physical therapists that want to work in outpatient PT, but they're leaving for other settings because they have tremendous student loans, and it's tough to make those payments when they're earning, $65,000 or $70,000 a year, and they have to go earn more money in a setting they don't necessarily want to work in. So pretty rough stuff. If we look at the Medicare conversion factor, and again, we've shared this in the past, this is not new. You can go online and access it fairly easily. But over the last few years, since 2016, again, our reimbursement for the services that we're delivering are decreasing significantly by more than 10%. And we're in line for another one here in January of 2024. If you look at overall, like what has happened in the last 23 years with regards to inflation, and I understand there's a lot of different categories, 15 or so categories on the screen, but some of the biggest ones that affect us are at the top of the screen. College tuition and fees and college textbooks have gone up by more than 150%. So when I graduated another lifetime ago, back in 2000, the maximum that I was allowed to take out in terms of student loans was roughly $24,000 for my physical therapy degree. Today, we talk with students who are upwards, and I'll give you the full range, is $160,000 to $240,000 in student debt just for a DPT, right? So nearly, in some cases, more than 10x, right? That tremendous cost of education. Realize that always filters down to pressure on us as the owner to fund the employment expense so that they can make that student loan payment, that 30-year mortgage payment. Medical care services is on here, well over 100%. So cost of that has more than doubled. What does that mean? Higher employment expenses for us to cover health insurance to cut for our employees. Food and beverage, housing, you can see in there, normal cost of living have gone up as well. That creates pressure on us as practice owners. And yeah, so a lot going on, specifically education and the rising costs of living and healthcare have put tremendous pressure on us, upward pressure on our costs to deliver services that we're being reimbursed less for. So, here are some of the biggest challenges that we hear when talking with you, earning less revenue from each patient. So I'm doing more work for less money, right? That's a pretty common theme here in the last few years. Overall increase in expenses. It's more expensive for me to provide the same service today than it was a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 5 years ago. Understaffed. It's not only difficult to hire, but it's difficult to retain employees, right? Because they're looking elsewhere. Real world problems. Underutilized space. So, we're leasing 3,000 square feet and it's tough to fill that space. Goes back to that staff and retention hiring issue that we talked about previously. And in the end, razor thin margins. Look, every single one of you, when you decided to go into practice, when we make that decision, we're taking a risk, right? You could be working in another setting. You could be an employee within the hospital or healthcare systems. You could have taken the safe route, but you put your neck on the line and you took a risk. In the end, my guess is that you're thinking about some reward. Maybe it's leaving an impact in your area the way you want to leave it. Maybe there's some financial incentive for you. Maybe there's a time freedom incentive for you. And when it gets dicey, like we're in the position that we're in right now, we have to make some changes, right? Because the things that we've relied on in the past aren't really working. And we'll talk about those here in a second. So some specific things that we're hearing from owners, we're a hardworking team. Yes, we took the risk. Yes, we're delivering a high quality of care. We want to make sure we don't shrink our margins to a point where we put the practice at risk. Again, that Mendoza line is about 10% in terms of a margin. If you're below that, you're in tremendous risk of closing your doors. The other term that came up that really struck home and resonated with me was ethical dilemma. We're in an ethical dilemma. We can see a higher volume, but that would compromise our quality of care, right? So this is a practice that's seeing a patient every 45 minutes or every hour. They don't want to change that, but we could keep doing what we're doing, but we'll be forced to close our doors. And our patients would have to get treatment elsewhere. Both choices are bad. We're kind of damned if we do, damned if we don't. And then finally here, how do we compete with the hospital systems when they charge and get paid 300%? What we do, getting paid as an outpatient PT office. Can we have hope to negotiate better rates? I had heard about this in the past. Recently, I had a patient give me an EOB, explanation of benefits. They had gone to a local hospital system that will remain anonymous. The charge for a 4-unit visit was $1,200. And by the way, same exact CPT codes that we're using. So the delivery of 4 units, roughly an hour of treatment. And so the bill was $1,200. By the way, it doesn't matter. Like we could arbitrarily bill $25,000 for 15 minutes, but that doesn't change anything, right? Because we're subject to what was reimbursed. And this is where it was devastating, at least to me. So same exact codes, manual therapy, neuromuscular rehab, therapeutic exercise, therapeutic activity. For that visit, the hospital received $318. I know for us to provide that same care 5 miles apart, we get $102 max, depending on the payer, right? That is unreal to me. So instantly, just quick math, if I was getting $300 per visit, we would be at 60, 70% in terms of margin. Yes, we could afford to pay more. Yes, we could offer better benefits. Yes, we could do all those other things. But guess what? I'm not a hospital and a healthcare system. So we have to figure out a better way. We have to be smarter and make better business decisions. So what most owners are doing, the first one that I hear a lot is, advocacy. Isn't there some way that we can band together, hear our voices heard? Especially in the last 3 years, yes, we should not abandon this. We should continue to do it. But so far, with the tremendous effort that we've put in, I remember here recently with the Medicare cuts, we mailed over 300 patient testimonials, wrote letters from all of our PTs. I know many of you have done the same thing. How's that working out for us? Well, the agencies that we're directing to, primarily CMS, right, we're still less valuable today, determined by them, than we were yesterday, right? That's kind of devastating. So advocacy is a tough hanger to hang our hat on. Cutting back on staff, marketing, and expansion. This to me, and only because I've done it, this death spiral is brutal for business long-term. Seeing more patients ourselves, talking with a lot of owners that, going through the cuts, and then they're hopping back in the clinic because there's really no other way that they can see out of the situation. Taking a personal pay cut, or even worse, having to subsidize the income in the practice personally, right? So hearing that as well. doing nothing, blaming external, right? There's a lot going on in the world that you and I can't really control, from inflation to what the Fed is doing with interest rates and all these other things. We can blame that all we want, or we can take a look at what is going on factually and come up with better strategies. My personal goal for you here today is, when you walk away, that you have strategies that you know exactly what to do, and that you know where you can go for help in order to implement those strategies. Giving up and selling for pennies on the dollar is another thing that I'm hearing as well. So how this typically plays out in most practices today, again, guilty as charged. I've done this. See a decrease in reimbursements. And in the past, for me, prior to the last 5 years, it's been really poor billing practices. Well, poor revenue cycle management, we'll call it. So money's not coming in. What do we do then? Likely somebody asked for a raise. We can't really meet. We can't renegotiate, or we can't, we have to shrink the benefits that we're providing. Not a good situation, environment to be in. So we're shrinking our staff. The owner starts treating, right? So what I would do is, if I was treating 25 hours a week before, and we lose a therapist, the last one was to the hospital system, then I have to jump back in and start treating more, right? Well, now I'm treating more. I can't really work on the business. I drop that aspect. Now, what do? I shut down marketing, or I try to shrink my business into profitability. I will say, I almost never see it work. Like, very rare will somebody pop out on the other end, and I've never seen it in PT. I've seen it only in other businesses. So what happens there is, long term, I have to take a pay cut, or I don't take distributions. For those of you that are, have gone through this process, this death spiral, that's usually what ends up happening, right? Or worse, we're at the tail end of our private practice career, and the practice becomes significantly less valuable than it was yesterday. So what do we do with all the problems? I'm going to show you 3 ways right now, 3 things of what you can do, how you can think through increasing your margin, increasing your profitability without cutting cost. Number 1 is fill schedules. What most owners will say is, my expenses are too high. They'll take a look. And I still think, as an industry, most of us are managing by checking account balance. And when the checking account balance is low, maybe there's a 1 week or 2 week delay on insurance payments coming in, something like that. Many owners will have the knee-jerk reaction to begin cutting costs immediately. There's a better way to think about it. And specifically outside of PT, when you're talking with business owners, accomplished business owners, they'll start viewing everything as an asset or a liability. Well, if I've hired a therapist, and they, for, let's call it 40 hours a week, nice even numbers, 1 full-time equivalent, we've hired a clinician, and their schedule is only at 50% capacity, right? And they're only seeing, let's say our normal capacity is 50 visits a week, and they're only seeing 25 visits a week. Is that an asset or a liability? For most of us, that is a liability, right? We're paying more. We're having to fund that therapist, right? So we have expenses. We're losing money on the deal, and it's a liability. However, for the business, from the perspective of the organization, if their schedule was full and they were seeing 45 or 50 visits a week, there's going to be more adequate margin here. And we'll talk about a specific example here in a second. But when you can move your liabilities, things that are costing you money, over to an asset, and what an asset does is it creates margin and revenue, you're going to be better off. Most of us have underutilized assets that are on this call right now as owners. So here, I'm going to give you an example about how powerful this is. Practice A has 2 PTs. Our assumptions are that they're 80% full, right? Not horrible. So if it's a 50 visit week, they're each therapist is seeing 40 visits a week. They're averaging $90 a visit in terms of reimbursement. And so they're seeing 80 visits a week. Practice B, 2 PTs, they're 95% full. They're getting the same $90 a visit, no change in reimbursement, and they're seeing $95 or 95 visits a week. on an annual basis, what is the difference in their margin? So I'm going to give you the answer here pretty quick. The difference, so practice A, their margin is 13%. A little bit below what the national average was back in 2018, a little bit above what the national average is today. Still very thin ice, not super healthy, right? Not a safe practice long term. Practice B is 29%, right? So nearly triple, more than double, almost triple the margin. Now, very small change, but here's how to think about the repercussions of that small change. So practice A or practice B, you can go to the chat for this. Who can offer a more stable working environment to their employees long term? Practice A or practice B, right? Practice B, easy. Who can better weather another reimbursement cut? We already have one coming for all of those of us who participate with Medicare. Who can better weather another cut? B, right? Easy game. Who is more likely to hire or expand to serve more people? Add additional space, open another location, right? B. B is in a better spot for that. They can leave a bigger impact in their area. They can grow and scale more easily. Who is in a better position to compete when a PT is walking out the door? B, right? Easily. Again, not a hard game. Which practice is more valuable? Easily B. Okay. So that's one and by the way, we're going to show you more here. So second thing you can do, that's point number one, is improve your payer mix. Most owners that we talk with, there's really nothing that we can do. I know some of you, provided a glimmer of hope within the chat. We've had on, Katie Britton comes to mind, and the work that Carl Kleinpeter and the group did down in Louisiana in terms of negotiating with government and advocacy, did an awesome job there. Yes, there are selective stories like that. There are some other specific things that you can do, and you're not completely powerless, regardless of how small you believe that your practice is. Even if you're a solo practitioner, that is fine. There's still things that you can do that are in your control. So the first thing, and you don't have to answer this other than write it down and know it for yourself, but what's your average reimbursement per visit? You should know that number immediately. Almost everybody in the industry does. Now, what can you do to control that better? Well, one, you could drop your lowest payer. A lot of conversation around this. We have a specific session here later today where we're going to be talking about this. We put other stuff out in the community for you as well, where you can learn how to do that. I had Ben Wapker on the podcast, what he did in Washington, and also Lake Washington PT off the top of my head. I hope I got the name of that practice right. And then Sean Weatherston in Idaho did the same exact thing with a similar payer, right? How to drop your lowest payer. How do I think through this? How do I do it? How do I know how it's going to affect me and problem solve the logistics there? Next thing is, can I renegotiate? We have a specific session here this afternoon for you with Tony Sear, and he's going to walk you through. You're going to love this session. We did it at a live event here a few months ago. We're going to do it again here for you. You're going to love that. So, as a small practice, is there any way that we can negotiate, or is it only the large hospital and healthcare systems that do millions of dollars a year in revenue? They're the only ones that have the power to negotiate. We're going to talk about that. And then finally, we're going to have sessions here today where you can think through how to attract more of your higher payers. So, for example, I know our best payer in our area is Highmark, right? Is there a way that we can logically think through how to attract more Highmark patients? Well, there is. We'll be talking about that and sharing that with you here today as well. The big point there is you can control your payer mix in the end. Big point number three, step number three that you can do is you can increase the lifetime patient value within your practice. So I don't know if you've ever had a capped payer or, had an insurance company that gave you like 4 visits or 6 visits, something like that. And, showed you numbers about, hey, by the way, here's our national average. And every time that you see somebody with back pain, you should be getting them better in 4 visits. And it's agnostic to, whether they have comorbidities or, if they're a diabetic or a smoker or obese or anything like that. And some insurance company is going to tell you, typically out of state, or a third-party review company, they're going to say, well, you should get this person better in 4 visits. That was a huge trend in private practice not that long ago. And, the unfortunate thing that happened with that is I talked with a lot of therapists who said, took pride in, I get somebody better in 2 visits. And, if I did my job, they're never going to have to come back again. That is not real. That is not reflective of life. And that's a focus on typically pain. So you help somebody get out of pain, but you usually didn't help them restore normal range of motion, normal strength. Really didn't help them return to function in those situations. And, if we take a look at that, that's really what our goal is, what our purpose is as a PT. And yeah, 2 visits sounds fun, but that, one therapist day isn't better because they get people better in 2 visits or 7.4 visits or whatever it is, right? Typically, what I've seen is a therapist with the lower visit average has a higher drop-off rate. So they're churning a lot of patients that are just dropping off the plan of care. But it's just what I see. So, options are less drop-off, better patient retention there. That's something that we can do. We can take a look at and just be very objective with it. We call it graduation rate. We can focus on more reactivations. So yeah, great. You saw somebody, who came in with BPPV. We average less than 3 visits per, vestibular patient coming through. That's amazing. However, we know that, they might need help again in the future for their shoulder or their knee or their back pain or a balance and dizziness issue that isn't related to their BPPV. Maybe they have a VOR deficit that comes up or something like that. So more reactivations, right? As an industry, we do a pretty poor job there. Although there's an increasing level of awareness there. We're going to talk about that and have sessions on that today. And then finally, you could add a cash pay service. So what most businesses do, what many do, is that once somebody is in the door and that you've developed that relationship, they know, like, and trust you, it's easy to find ways that you can serve them better and help them overcome the problems, the challenges that they're having that might not be exactly related to their BPPV or something like that. So we have a panel and a session set up for you on that today, and there are lots of options out there. And we're going to talk about the main pitfalls and how you can think about rolling out a cash pay service, even if you're 100% participating with insurances now. So do you think this would work for you? One, would it help you realize, if you implemented those 3 steps, can you see how it would help you realize the full potential of your assets? So we are here May 25th, right? If we went back to April and you did nothing in April other than had a better payer mix, had more reactivations, added a cash pay service, how would that have changed your practice? How would it have changed your margins? If you did have space on your schedules back then and you just simply filled up your schedules, what would that do for your margin? What would it do for your financial situation? Taking control of your payer mix, would that give you confidence moving forward to go out and help more people, to buy more market share, to invest in space, to build a better practice of value? Would it give you confidence in hiring that next clinician that comes through the door? And, also increasing your lifetime customer value, your lifetime patient value? What would that do for your practice? Let me ask you a question. So do you feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose, or at least a powerful garden hose at this point? A lot going on. How are we doing? Give me a pulse in the J Park says all good.
Yeah, I think the big question here, or that I think about, or I hear from a lot of owners after going through this, is like, yeah, I understand I need to do all those things, or those things would be a good thing to do, but it can be overwhelming in the day-to-day to try to maybe, tackle it, right, without support or really time. I mean, it's mostly time. Yeah. Does that resonate with you guys? Like, it's like, yeah, we get this seems like the right stuff to do. Focus on the things you can control that Chad shared, but it, either time or knowledge is in the way. Yeah, time.
Yeah. So I would say nearly 100% of us are time starved as practice owners. So what we did is we looked at everything that we've ever done within Breakthrough. We put together a program specifically to help you implement and overcome all the steps that we're talking about here. So let's get into this right now. All right. So we have a program called Profitability Under Pressure. And what we did is we took a look at what were the biggest problems owners were facing. And originally, this is designed for only Breakthrough customers. But we're going to share that here, exactly what we're doing here with you. So the first thing that we're doing is a 13-week masterclass. And this is, in the tradition of all the other Breakthrough courses that we've done on marketing or hiring or finances. It's going to be delivered the same way, but in the end, you'll be able to create a custom plan that will help you improve the profitability of your practice, right? Again, we're all different. We all have different pathways. Some of us are cash pay. I saw Todd had posted in there as well, and we're going to talk about a tool. I'll be showing that tool here later today and exactly how you can implement it into your practice to create a custom plan for your practice. In the end, you're going to know how to drop your lowest payer, how to evaluate that, and the exact steps to take, and also how you can renegotiate insurance contracts. You're going to learn how to implement a cash service to improve your profitability, how to systematically attract better paying patients, which also is something that you can do, how to maximize utilization of your space and personnel. Personally, this is the same exact formula we use for our 7 clinic locations, just going through exactly the same thing. And you're going to learn how to apply those formulas for your practice. And again, we deliver this in the same way that we typically deliver our services, with online video, step-by-step instruction. The biggest thing is online implementation. So yes, you can learn it, but then we have specific classes that you can hop in and learn with other owners exactly how to implement this.
And real quick, just to add, it's going to start with a profitability assessment in the first few weeks. It'll move into, after that, you'll be able to go through the modules in a way that resonates with your practice or what works with you the most. So you'll be working one-on-one with somebody, focusing on each of these things, being able to drop your lowest payer, focus on, renegotiating insurance contracts. We've kind of dug deep to find people who've been able to do this, and we're going to share what they've done and the best practices we found. And with cash service, I know it's one that's a tough one that a lot of people think about, and they think about staff resistance. Sometimes they think about, well, I put this in place, or they tried something that didn't really impact things as much as they'd like. With that, we have a lot of other resources and a lot of things we've tested, and we're going to talk about that later today, but it's really, really solid. But yeah, that's how we're going to be doing it. It'll be going through step by step, week by week. And it should be really valuable for everybody who's trying to solve this problem.
So if you've ever heard Sean's story, he shared it multiple times, Sean Weatherston, but, at one point they were considering, would we have to close the clinic? Should we lay staff off? How do we think through this? And then in the end, you can read here exactly what Sean said, but, we've worked directly with Sean for a few years now. They've more than doubled their visit. He set a big goal to double their practice. They've been able to do that and continue to grow. Tony's here again. You're going to be hearing from Tony in a minute or two. When we first started working with Tony back in 2016, their revenue was $946K. They more than doubled their practice within 2 years, and then have now tripled the size of their practice. I believe they just opened their second location. More than 300% revenue growth in 6 years. And you'll be hearing from Tony again. Jen Ratner grew her practice more than 6,000 visits in a single year. And the thing that I will tell you that all of these owners have in common is they didn't always have all the answers, but they're amazing students. They work hard, and they implement with their teams. So yeah, all have worked with Breakthrough, all have grown their practice in spite of the economic environment and all the other stuff that we faced within the last 3 years. So who the course is for? Private practice owner. I'm assuming that you are. We'll make sure. Feeling the pressure of shrinking margins, doing well, but you want to stay ahead of the trend, right? And that you can commit to study at least 1 hour a week. That we're looking for owners that are engaged and are going to implement and grow, just like Jennifer and Sean and Tony, and that you have a growth mindset and you're going to be engaged. Who it's not for, if you're a hospital-owned practice or a physician-owned practice, this is for private practice owners only. Startup practices, probably an asterisk here. You have to be highly ambitious and that you're going to implement.
I would say no, though. I mean, I think with this one, it's not quite the right program. We do have other things for startups, but this isn't the right one. So if you're brand new and you've opened in the last 3 months, it's probably not the best choice.
Fair enough. Or a side hustle where you're working somewhere else full time and you're thinking about, or you have your toe in the water with your practice, not for you. Victim, if you take great pride in blaming all of the external forces and you can admit that you don't really have a growth mindset, nothing wrong with that, but the program's not for you. If you can't really commit to change or you don't have a history of doing that, not for you. And the other thing that we all have to face as business owners is, am I worth investing in? So if you're thinking about that and your answer is no, and your knee-jerk reaction, your reflex is that you're not worth investing in, again, nothing wrong with that. You should overcome that first, but this program is not for you. So in addition to the course, the 13-week masterclass, you're going to get Breakthrough Pro. This is the same exact software that we use in our practice for marketing, to create demand for our services, to stay in communication not only with our past patient list, but also do our cold traffic marketing as well. Yeah, there are pre-built campaigns in here that we'll show you later.
I'll speak to these three. Yeah, just there's some stuff that we've built, and the reason that we've included this in this program, given that we're trying to increase revenue per visit, that's what it's all about. So we've got a lot of pre-built campaigns that help to drive cash pay programs. We've worked hard on that over the last few months. We've also have some cool things that we've done with the ability to segment and target the best payers through reactivation campaigns. And I mean, creating control and consistency is what this is all about. We won't go into more detail on what this looks like today because it'd be just too much to cover. But overall, the idea is to take all the systems you would need for marketing and roll it kind of into one, where you can create a lot of consistency, and it eliminates a lot of the questions and time that you would have about getting something in place. Everything just works. Yeah.
So you might be thinking, how can I hire? So for most of us, when we solve one problem, it opens up other problems within the business. So if you're solving our schedules are already full, or we have a waiting list and I really need to hire, which is the first problem, or, how can I handle my team is asking for a raise? For those that apply today and are into the program, this is a additional bonus that we're going to do. We pulled together some trainings that we've done in the past, and this is how to hire and incentivize your staff. It's probably the most requested thing that we get at every single live event is, how the sharing of the system that we use to incentivize now I think we have 104 team members here within my practice, and how can I implement that into my practice? So we're going to be sharing that. Grow your practice and profits faster by hiring the right team, show you how to do that. Learn our LinkedIn recruiter strategy, which I've demonstrated that in a few places, but we're going to have that in the course. And then also as part of the bonus, we're going to go through the incentive plan and how you can apply that, implement that to your practice. Long story short, I've been in practice for a long time, 20 plus years. I think a few years ago, we did some math around the amount of investment that I've gone through just in terms of picking up the skill set and knowledge to put the information together. And it's well over $100,000. I have a lot of losses in terms of, going through courses. Some of it's been great, some of it not so great. In the end, you're going to get a huge shortcut and learn the exact systems, the exact processes that not only I use, but now hundreds of other owners are using as well, all of the other breakthrough members. And you're not going to have to go through and reinvent the wheel, discover this for yourself. So just to recap, you're going to get Profitability Under Pressure, the 13-week masterclass. You're going to get the Breakthrough Pro software, which is the same system that we use in our practice to generate demand for our services. And then also, as a bonus, when you apply today and get into the course, you're going to get how to hire and incentivize. You're going to get that as a bonus. What would this mean for your practice? Do I want to go there? All right. So in the end, think about and I've been there. So I know what it's like to lose money in practice, to have no margin or a negative margin, to hop back into the clinic, to be forced to, not take pay for months, quarters, or even years at a time. But think about what just improving the profitability of your practice. And let's say you're at 10% now, you're right on the line, and you did nothing more than got to 15%, right? Very small, incremental, believable bump. So take whatever your revenue is, 5% of that. What is that number? What is that worth to you and your practice? What would that do for you? More importantly, what would it do for your team? What would it do for the people in your community that are facing decisions around getting, on unnecessary medications, injections, surgery? Think through that. What would it mean for your community? What would it mean for your team? What would it mean for the value of your practice? And then think through, anytime we're making a decision, what would this mean for your family? If you have a family, if you're a husband, wife, you have a significant other, you have children or maybe parents that you're taking care of, what would it mean for them in terms of the profitability of your practice, the viability of your practice? And then finally, what would this mean for you? Again, I'm very aware most of us are time starved. Most of us don't have enough time to sleep well or to eat right. And, we're healthcare practitioners that don't have time to take care of ourselves. And that's not a good scenario. So, what would this mean for your company? What would this mean for your family, for the important relationships that you have in your life? And then finally, what would this mean? What would this mean for you? First piece that we ever wrote for Breakthrough was the frog in the boiling pot. And we had talked about this years ago relative to marketing. And at that time, we had talked about decreased physician referrals, right? Everybody knows this now, but back in 2014, the research hadn't been published yet of the dramatic decrease in physician referrals to PT, and how physicians were really referring not to physical therapy anymore, but to other specialists, primarily because of this giant move nationally within the healthcare system. Now all that is known. It's been published. We've shared that repeatedly back in 2018. We're kind of in the same spot though, right? So a lot of us will typically, and the story with the frog in the boiling pot is, if you gradually turn up the temperature and a frog is in a pot of water, eventually the temperature will get hot enough that it will kill the frog and the frog will have never moved. We're in that same exact position as practice owners right now. We're feeling the heat, we're feeling the pressure. We're either going to do something or we're going to close our doors. I've had friends within the last year that have closed the doors to their practices forever, right? Just said, I can't do this anymore. I'll go work for somebody else. Or I'll just close and take an early retirement, and I can't really afford that early retirement. So just saw a friend here recently. They're completely out of PT altogether. Pretty tough conversation to have to see. So in the end, in order to survive, we're going to have to make a move. We're going to have to do something. We're going to have to commit to action and actually follow through on that action. Otherwise, we're going to lose a lot of fellow practice owners. So yeah, really the other thing that many of us, have felt over the years is that we're all alone. We're the only person going through this. There's hundreds of owners on here right now. Hundreds of owners have already gone through this and implemented it and seen changes. You can do it. Again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So a lot of value here. This is this in the end is the most extensive course that we've ever revealed before, that we've ever put out before. Plus you're getting the software, plus the bonus. There's another thing that you'll be part of the first group to go through this. So every time that we go through the first rendition of a course, you get the most attention, right? So we're going to be solving through with you as you're going through the course, as you're implementing, making sure that you implement it for future owners that are going through. So that's why we have the bonus in there as well. So there's an application for this. We want to make sure that you're a practice owner. There's no downside to this. You've got nothing to lose. This will take about 5 minutes to go through. I'll show you the actual application form to do this, but it is by application only. Again, our original intention, we announced this at a recent breakthrough event. This was only going to be for those owners that are in our Breakthrough Pro or Breakthrough Premium. And what we've decided to do is open up 10 additional spots for owners who are not part of Breakthrough as of today. So we're going to do this by application. We want to make sure you're a practice owner. We want to make sure you're a great fit. So here's how it works. You're going to fill out the short application now. You're going to schedule a profitability assessment call with one of our specialists. On this call, we will speak to you personally about your unique situation and how you can apply these ideas to your practice today. And if you want us to help you, and if we think you're a good fit for the program, and we'll invite you to enroll in the upcoming cohort. Again, we're limiting this to 10. We already announced this to our current owners. We had 20 people sign up for the course right away. So 10 spots left that we reserved for you. And if you choose to enroll, we'll help you implement these concepts into your practice. Again, I will be available. Our team will be available. Other owners will be available to help you implement this into your practice. If not, you can still listen to the podcast and come to the summits and everything else that we do. And we only want to work with owners that we know that we can help. All right. Profitability under pressure. So again, it's for practice owners. You're feeling the pressure of margins. You're doing well. You want to stay ahead of the trend. Maybe you're not less than 10% in terms of your margin, but you've seen it go from 20 to 18 to 13, and you don't like the trend and you want to reverse that. You can commit to taking action, studying 1 hour a week, and you have a growth mindset and you're going to be engaged.
Cool. And here's how you jump in. We'll talk. I'm actually going to screen share to show you guys in a second to make it real easy, but some of you will figure it out. And it's a good idea to do it as soon as you can. We've got 160 people on the call. There's 10 spots. Yeah, it's a good idea to do it today. It'll only take about 5 minutes, so I would do it right now. And I'll show you how. You'll fill out the application. You'll choose a time. How this is going to work on the call. So you're going to fill out the short application. Then on the call, we're going to speak to you personally about how you can apply these ideas in your practice. You're going to get a lot of value from that alone. So there's really no downside to do this. And we're doing this as a, goodwill to help everybody. And in a minute, I'll tell you exactly how to do it. So, Chad, would I be able to, let me see what's next. Would I be able to share my screen? Oh, here we go. All right. Let me show you how to do it. Whoops. So you're going to go to the URL getbreakthrough/apply. And then can you see my screen? Can everybody see my screen?
Good.
Cool. So when you click that, or when you go to getbreakthrough/apply, which I believe somebody probably put it in the chat for you to click on, it's going to take you to this page. Then you're just going to fill out this information. So I pre-filled some fun stuff in here just as an example. So your name, you're going to fill out your practice, your email, your contact information, answer a few simple questions, and about what you're looking to do in your practice this year, what your biggest challenge is, and why you're interested in this program. And there's no downside to you guys doing this. I mean, our team's not going to put a lot of pressure on you. And for the first cohort, it's really important for us to get it right. So we want to make sure the right people are in there. And, we're glad you're all on it. If you're a good fit, that's great. If not, no worries. Maybe you will be another day, or you can continue to you'll get a lot out of this event as well. After you click that, you're going to end up on this page. So this is where you're scheduling that assessment, right? And what I'll say is, you can click around. I mean, it's pretty easy to find a time, choose a time that works best for you. If there's nothing in May, you can click over to June just like that and choose a time. And that's pretty much it. That's how it works. The one thing I will say is, if you are going to schedule one of these calls, all that we would ask is, you don't like it when patients no show for visits. Same for us. It costs us money to do these. You will get value out of it. So just let us know if you can't make it. Shoot us an email, ideally, the day before if you can't make it. Chad, I'll let you take control back. So hopefully that was pretty easy, and hopefully I showed you through. If anybody has any questions about it or is having issues, post it in the chat. I see some people trying and having some issues right now, but that are messaging. But yeah.
Great. So again, just to recap, we're accepting 30 practices. We already have 20 active members that have signed up. There's no cost to them at all. And we reserve the remaining spots for those of you that are either an inactive Breakthrough client, aren't in one of our programs currently, or you're brand new to Breakthrough. Yep. So really two options. Carl went through them already. You can apply now, do something about it, take the bull by the horns. We can work together. Or not. Really up to you. Great. So I did see the link in there. If we can post the link again, it's getbreakthrough.com/apply.
Yeah, and I see we have a few people that have figured it out already, so that's great. Got our man John Stephen, thank you for applying there. If you're having any issues, just let us know. It should be simple. We'll answer some questions right now, so it's going to take a second, but we'll have to dig back through these, Chad. So okay, first question I see on the list, and if anybody can help me with these, that'd be great.
I can help you moderate, Carl.
Sure. So I see one that's asking about if you've been in practice a year. I think a year is probably enough time, but it'll depend on where you stand with your business and what you're trying to accomplish. I would say if you're under 6 months probably if you're under 3 months, it's definitely a no. But if you've been in practice for a year, seems like it could work. Just fill out the application, and then we'll talk to you and let you know if it makes sense or not. What else do we have?
Yeah. So there were a couple of questions around hiring. Am I the only one whose growth is limited by being able to being unable to find staff? And is incentivizing staff different by state?
So first question was, and I believe the question was all staff, right? So not just clinicians, but front desk, billing, et cetera. That is a national problem, not new. That you're not alone. That's something that, you know, we've had to actively work through and help other owners work through as well. The second one was incentivization. Yes, there are state laws, employment laws that are different from every single state. I'm in Pennsylvania. Tony's in Florida. I think you said, you know, practice owner in California. They're all very different. So yes, you're going to take the principles, put them in place. We know what works nationally, but you're going to have to make sure that everything is legal, compliant, and ethical with your own state employment laws. But the principles are fairly universal. Yes.
Cool. We have a number of people asking about the cost. What can we say about that?
We're still working through that exactly, but and it may depend on different situations and things that we have. What I will tell you is it's going to be, because it's the first cohort, it's going to be a fraction of what it would normally be. And this is the best time to go through. As we work out kinks, you know, what we will ask in exchange for it being at a lower cost is for you to give really solid feedback on the process and to stay engaged. Well, I mean, that's part of the interview process you'll go through with our team. Last feedback, as it works, we'll ask for some case studies. So those are the things that we'll ask for. But yeah, don't mean to give you an unstraight answer. It's just we truly haven't completely figured it out for anyone. If you're an existing customer of ours with Breakthrough Pro or Premium, there is no cost to you. So if you're on here, and most of you guys have already, like, if you're on here, some of you may have already signed up, some of you haven't. You know, if you really want to get in and you haven't, just there's some links that have been posted in Mighty that you can go click on, and it's a separate process. But you could also apply here, and we'll make sure you get figured out. But yeah, what else we got? So as you're pulling up the next one, we've got a number of people who've applied so far. Thanks, Rob, Matthew, Adam, Mary, Harry, Peg, Nancy, Jill, Ben. Some of these people I know from before. David, Christian. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys.
Awesome. If we're already Breakthrough members, if they're already a Breakthrough member, do they still need to fill out the form?
You can if you want to. There's another way. Basically, like, we've already sent a message to allow existing customers to enroll. And if you follow that path, it may be a little easier. But if you wanted to go this route, the easiest route is to just message your CSM, and we'll get you taken care of, so long it doesn't fill up. And if it goes well, we'll do another cohort afterwards. So
Great. Melissa said, we've done Breakthrough University in the past. How is this new offering different?
Chad, you want to take this?
Yeah, there's updated information on really all three pillars. So marketing is updated information. The application of the financial tool, the financial projection, the pro forma. We take you through 4 different scenarios that we haven't done before. And same thing with personnel. It's all the information is updated for each of the pillars, plus you have the software backing as well. So it's not only the information, but the tools to help you implement directly.
Richard had a question from earlier in the presentation, so this is not specifically about the offer. Do you mind if I share his question?
Sure.
He said, what is the average DSO receivables across all payers, 30, 60, 90 days or longer?
Great question for Bob Kowalik, who has a ton of data. It's the equivalent of Bob's ADO score. It's another metric to look at it. Bob and I talked about that on the podcast this week. I know he and Mary can answer that exactly for you very precisely in their session here.
Awesome. That'll be coming up later in the day. I think that's most of the questions that I saw.
Great.
Well, great. We can move on here. Thank you guys for sitting through this, and thanks for participating. You've been awesome. And yeah, I mean, I realize these are challenging times. I did a lot of interviews with a lot of practice owners in the last 90 days to understand these challenges, and Chad has as well. And, you know, with as much pressure as you guys have coming from above and below, seeing reimbursements dipping and falling, and seeing the costs increasing, it puts a lot of pressure on you guys. And I just want to say that I appreciate you guys for staying in it. I know some people like wait and like see the problem like getting worse slowly over time, but the issue is real now. I mean, it's time to do something about it, right? Which is why we put this together, to try to really help. And you know what, one thing that I wanted to mention is usually I'll ask, well, this sounds really hard, right, to be in private practice today. What the end, like, why, I'll always ask, why you still, like, why would you still do this? And usually the answer starts with, well, I don't want to lose the asset, but then it finishes with, is for the people, right? And that's why you guys are in this, and treating patients in a much better way than hospital systems or physician-owned practices can. And if you look at the amount of private practices over the last several years, and the amount of hospital-owned practices, it's like one is declining, the other is increasing. So I appreciate you all for staying in it. That's all I wanted to say, because you're really helping a lot of people. All right, so we're gonna switch to another session here. I did see that there's been a bunch of people having issues with technical issues. So my man on our team, Morgan, might ping you because to help you out through the chat here if you're having challenges. And if you hear from him, he's cool. Don't worry about him. He'll just try to help you if you're having issues with it. Thanks, guys.